Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to talk about why we are so freaking bullish and why you guys with all this negativity need to stop that bullshit, right? We are in a bull market. You need to be bullish in a bull market. Okay, that sounds like such a simple statement, but it's something that a lot of people are having issues with. Why is that? Because they are dealing with their emotions instead of looking at the data, looking at what's happening in front of them. They're dealing with all the negativity from the past 3 years, which, truth be told, I mean, it's been rough in certain cases, especially if you haven't been active. But again, we've shown time and time again, if you've been active, if you've been looking at things, if you've been taking profits, there's been anywhere from 5 to 20 to 40 to 50 X's these past 3 years. Okay, it's not even just recently with some of these things pumping. It's been nonstop opportunity and all kinds of different niches. Whether it was some of the GPU coins early on, deep in coins back in like late 2023. There's been different times, different cycles, especially for these memes. There's all over the place, right? If you were in it, there's been opportunity. And there's another big ass opportunity right in your face that's like just smacking you. You guys do not want to accept it. Stop being emotional. Look at the data. Okay, so we're going to look at what's going on, what we're talking about, and why we are so freaking bullish. Okay. If that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So even with everything going on, for whatever reason, people are still freaking bearish as hell, which is just mind-blowingly ridiculous. Okay, let's look at the facts. BTC currently, we're about to break all-time high here, literally any second, right? If we didn't already. We're at 123.095. And there it is, actually. There is a new all-time high, right? Just hit it for a second. ETH, same story. We're at 47.46. All-time high is 48.91. We're going to break it probably any minute here. Okay? Again, like, I don't know how you are not bullish right now. Okay? And yes, the argument comes in when we're highlighting certain coins. Well, those coins are pumping, mine aren't. That's not the way it works, especially for these smaller cap altcoins. Okay, we'll talk about what to expect and why typically that's going to be the blow off top at the end. Okay, you have to follow kind of the order that it goes in, these rotations of capital, which start at the top. Okay, and then on top of that, a big part of the reason why we're bullish is timeline wise, and then looking at metrics. Again, look at data points, not just the sentiment that's on crypto Twitter or from us being excited. Look at the data that's in front of you that we've been highlighting these past few months as far as what we are looking at, what we're looking for. Okay, so one good example, total crypto market cap. We are at 4.16 trillion. It's a new all-time high. Bitcoin dominance, which is another important aspect for us to get that altcoin season, is still going down. It is at 58.9%. Ethereum dominance is going up, which again, what we want to see for these alts to succeed. It's at 13.7%. Okay, a lot of good data here. Okay, this is an excellent chart to kind of sum things up for you guys who kind of aren't understanding the way it works. Phase 1 is Bitcoin. Flow of money moves into Bitcoin, causing price surges, which is what we've been seeing these past few months. Okay, if we look just recently, back April 8th, we were at $76,000. Okay, we're at 123K. Phase 1 is good. Phase 2 is ETH. Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, and we hear talks of the flippening, which oddly enough, there was an interview with, I believe, Joe Lubin recently talking about the flippening. I'm sure you've heard of people bringing back up, which is kind of funny because ETH just barely came alive and there's already talks of that. So the phase overlap, money flows into ETH, but it struggles to keep up with Bitcoin. Ethereum goes back and forth with Bitcoin, starts outperforming it. It's kind of what was initially happening and still kind of happening, right? Realistically, Bitcoin is having a little resurgence just because, again, it's pretty much an all-time high right now. So the phase overlap, money is flowing into large caps where we see large cap buy-ups happening. Phase 3 is large caps. Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin and large caps are going parabolic. So this is the part we're likely heading into next. Does that mean it's going to happen tomorrow after ETH hits all-time high? No. A lot of this stuff typically plays out in however long it goes through, right? Could be a 3-month period, could be a 2-month period, could be a 6-month period. Okay, so it's not something that instantly, okay, new all-time high, next phase, next phase. That's not how it works, right? Typically we can go up, we can hit this other phase, and then we can go back down a little bit. Maybe ETH starts to go down a little bit. Bitcoin has its resurgence, goes up beyond, goes up to 128, 130, 135, and then we kind of go through the spat again where it kind of stays there, kind of consolidates, goes sideways, and ETH starts picking up. ETH goes up to 5K, 5,200. So maybe we stay in this phase for quite a bit longer. Once they get to the point where they're getting a little bit toppy, then people start trickling down. People start selling ETH potentially. To me, is going to be the most likely scenario. I don't see necessarily a bunch of people selling out of Bitcoin. And that doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin needs to sell off in order for us to have this altcoin season. Okay, for me, my personal prediction, Bitcoin dominance is going to go down most likely, but it's not going to be because of people selling off. There's potential for Bitcoin to continue going up slowly and the dominance still going down just because altcoins begin to really outperform it. More money starts flowing into there, into ETH, into some of these other caps. Okay, so eventually, once ETH starts kind of topping out, then we'll see other runners, right? So once we start seeing Solana running, AVAX running, things in the top 20, top 30, then potentially things in the top 40, top 50, that's when we start to see changes, right? So again, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen now. Maybe some of them do now. I wouldn't be surprised to see Solana. Again, that's kind of the next hype coin. Go first. But again, so phase 3 large caps, Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin and large caps are going parabolic. The phase overlap portion, regardless of market cap, some altcoins with strong fundamentals are having pumps. And again, those are going to be those certain coins that are those stronger, high confidence plays. So phase 4 of the alt season. Large caps have gone full vertical and we're seeing blow off top. So again, this is more towards the end phase. And this is where a lot of the gripes are currently. Like, oh, my coin hasn't ran. A lot of these coins are still in the shitter. And it's because realistically, a lot of them won't run till the very end, especially those smaller cap coins, right? Realistically, we're going to see a lot of the gains here in these next month or two if things play out in these larger cap coins. Pretty much anything in the top 20, top 50, and then eventually the top 100. And then potentially whatever other coins run after that, right? So again, it doesn't mean all of them are going to run. Doesn't mean every coin in the top 50. Certain ones will go up a lot more than others, right? We've seen that in the past. It's going for those high confidence plays. Which ones are likely to do best? Again, we talk about the game of probability, right? We want to go into those coins where the probability is higher that it's going to do well than some of these other coins. Because again, some will outperform, some will do okay, and some may just go sideways, right? Some may not do anything. Okay, so you got to fully understand that. So phase 4 alt season, large caps have gone full vertical. We're seeing blow off tops. Mid caps, low caps, micro caps all tend to pump around the same time, which is something we have seen, especially when we see it at the end point. Large caps have been outperforming Bitcoin and ETH. It seems every coin is going parabolic regardless of fundamentals. Memes are everywhere. Everyone is super excited and you feel the mania in the air. And this is kind of towards the end of it, right? And this is kind of going to be the hard part, right? Where will it truly end? Like, how far will it go? Especially right now with all the talks of it going into 2026 and beyond, which again, it's kind of dangerous with that mentality also, just because again, it's something we heard last cycle. If you guys remember, 100K, 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 all over the place. Okay, so a lot of people round trip because of that. So I'm looking at different metrics, different things going on. Again, for me, another thing that I'm personally going to go by is that I think coins are going to go separately, right? It's not necessarily going to be every alt at the same time. It's going to be different niches. It's going to be something bullish happens, whether it's DPIN, AI, GPU coins, whatever sector it is. If something bullish happens at that sector, that's potential for the top, right? And certain coins will kind of be by themselves. Like, for example, I was talking to one of you guys earlier about Casper, for example. One thing I'm looking for that could potentially kind of be the top, especially if it happens in the next few months, is if they ever do get those huge exchange listings. Again, let's say they get that Binance listing sometime late October, early November, considering everything else going on. Obviously, likely to pump with that news. Could that cause it to pump before some of the others? Of course, right? We have seen that. We have seen that throughout this whole bear market. Different niches, different times, whenever there's a big news, whether it was AI, DPIN, whatever, they all had their little phases where those select coins went up specifically. Okay, and again, in my opinion, we're at the point now where anything can happen with these different coins. Like, that's why I'm fully kind of prepared. Make sure everything's liquid, everything's kind of ready to go, just because, again, anything can happen. And again, none of this stuff is also guaranteed, right? The market doesn't owe you shit. Like the altcoin season, Does not have to happen, right? But these are all things that when we look at the data, we look at confluence, we look at everything going on, we look at the sentiment, not just in crypto land, but the overall broader market. I mean, when we're looking at the S&P getting all-time highs, the stocks going ballistic, everything going on, and then as far as just even things outside of there, right? Like recently we just had the CPI print, which is essentially guaranteeing pretty much these freaking rate cut in September, which when we look at the odds, it's essentially at 100%, right? So it's at 94.3% for a 0.25 reduction, and then a 5.7 for us to get a 0.50. Okay, so to me seems pretty much like it's going to be a lock, right? These things historically have been fairly accurate, especially when they're this dominant. Okay, so that's something that can be a massive catalyst, could be the beginning of something else. A lot of different things going on, right? So again, when we're looking at the data, when we're looking at things we want to see, where BTC dominance is going down, ETH dominance is going up, we're getting new all-time highs. By the way, BTC is at 123,600, so it's definitely didn't just hit it and get rejected. It is continuing, which is extremely freaking bullish, guys. Again, just because your current altcoin isn't hitting your all-time high, that doesn't mean it's not going to, right? A lot of these smaller coins aren't going to run until towards the end of this thing. Okay, again, just looking at more data points, you can look at like Google Trends, for example. If we look up altcoins globally for the past 5 years, again, it's doing extremely well, right? We can look it up here. It's breaking anything previously. If we're looking at Ethereum, for example, we can see the high back in May of 2021, which was that first pull. It's trending upward extensively. And again, this is on the global for the 5 years, which is extremely bullish, right? And if we look at historically what's happened, we can look at some of the bigger coins just to kind of see what they did last cycle, to kind of just look at it. Okay, and if we look at it, we look at the all-time chart. Again, if we look at this second pump, which some of them, I mean, Solana's a good example because it didn't really do a whole lot on the first pump. It did do pretty well, but not in comparison to what it did on the second pump. So again, end of July, mid-July was around $26. Okay, again, for reference, we're August 13th. So not too far off timeline-wise, about a month difference. So it's $26 at that point, peaking ultimately November 5th, $236. So damn near a 10x in that amount of time. Okay, so things can definitely happen in these 3 months. Things can definitely still follow the cycle here, right? We're not too far off. Again, doesn't happen exactly. A lot of people estimate about 80 weeks or so after the halving. And it can happen anytime within that time frame, right? Anytime from late October to like mid-December, just anywhere in that time frame, things can happen, right? Kind of similar story with AVAX. If we look at AVAX around that same time frame, let's look at it. It is lagging a little bit. So again, if we look at, let's pull up the all-time, we can look at where it started ticking up. And again, July 20th, it was at $9.64. By the time of November 23rd, $123. Okay, so again, another massive gain on a larger cap coin. If we look at some of the others do go up more progressively, right? Helium is one that, yes, it did have their blow-off top November 15th, but it is one that was slightly ticking up ever since the beginning of 2021 when some of the others ran. Okay, so ultimately their run-up was more in, if we look at it in the same time frame, July 19th, it was $9. And by the end of this thing, it was $47. Okay, so the market cap went up pretty substantially. It was at under $1 billion around that time, which is where a lot of the coins are currently. So it went from under $1 billion to around $4.8 billion in that time frame. Okay. Another prime example of the smaller coins, just kind of what to expect potentially here, is that, again, the bulk of the run doesn't happen until towards the end, right? So again, this is with Cadena, which again is a more exaggerated example, but it's a great example of how a lot of them, especially the smaller cap coins, because again, at this time, this was a tiny micro cap. This is also why it ran up so hard. Okay, if we go back to the beginning of August, it was only $47 million. Okay, and then go to the peak of this thing, $3.39 billion. Insane run. Okay, and you can see the bulk of it really didn't start until October. In that 1 month period, it just went up massively, right? October 10th, it was $2. November 14th, 21.55, right? In such a small amount of time, anything can happen, guys. And this is why a lot of us don't necessarily have massive positions in these smaller cap coins, but it's not a bad idea to at least have some kind of allocation just for something like this. Which ones will do this? We have no idea, right? But again, we're looking at a game of probabilities, which ones are likely to, which ones it can happen. And some of us will degen there. Does that mean that we have a hefty amount into those? No, right? If it's a higher confidence play, sure. But again, for me, it's different coins, right? Like for me, my two biggest holdings, Solana and Caspa, and those are the ones that just happen to do the best throughout this bear market. We had already an amazing run. Even if this is their peak for both of them, both ridiculous runs. Okay, and I do fully expect them to continue to go up. Is there a lot of upside for either of those, though, beyond this point? No, right? So realistically, going to kind of play it safe because, again, a lot of the gains were already had. So we're going to play it safe with those. But a lot of these smaller degen plays, my little one percenters, I call them, those we're going to go for this thing, right? We're going to go for broke. A lot of capital wasn't invested. But there is a possibility for something like this to happen. Okay, so again, I would recommend getting in your sectors, choosing what you think is likely to do that. It's fully up to you. I have my little picks. And go from there, right? But again, just because your altcoin hasn't pumped doesn't mean it's probably not going to. So again, the gist of this video is be bullish in a bull market. Okay, so this is the time that if you want to place your last minute bets on some of these alts, we have a lot of data points. We've seen what the lows are. We do have a lot of reference points. I do tend to do videos whenever there's massive dumps, whenever there's massive pumps, just for data points. Again, like I mentioned in all those videos, those are amazing data points that like kind of let us know where the lows were, where potential highs are, what are good entry points, what are good DCA points, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, would I necessarily be buying into some of these coins that are pumping all the way up right now, like Bitcoin and ETH? No, right? I would be going into the rotation phase into some of those other alts. Okay, whether it's whichever ones, like things in the top 10 I wouldn't be so bullish on. Like right now, I'm very bullish on Solana, but to me, there's not a whole lot of upside from here, right? There's a lot of other coins as we go down that potentially are going to have much more upside potential. Things like AVAX, for example, Near. Again, you got to find your niches and what you think will do well and kind of go from there, right? But coins that are nowhere near their all-time high versus others that have broken it, like Solana, for example, they did already. Okay, they're not there currently, but they have in the past. Okay, so again, at the end of the day, there's still time, especially with a lot of these alts. This is the time to be bullish, though, bros. This is the time to look at the data, look at what's going on, look at these inflows, look at what these institutions are doing, look at what these VCs are doing, and base things off of that and not those damn emotions. The emotional part is one of the hardest things about crypto, and it's going to be the hardest part when it comes time to sell also, right? If things kind of go as planned, and let's say November, BTC's at 150, Solana's at 450 bucks, Caspa's at 40 cents, it's going to be extremely hard because you're going to continue to feel like it's going to continue to go up. You're going to hear all these things that BTC's going to 200, 250, ETH's going to 10K, Caspa's going to $1, it's going to $2. You're going to hear a lot of this, and you have to come up with those price targets. You have to look at different metrics like what's going on in the future. Is there anything else in the future that can pump it? Is there any narratives coming up? Again, we mentioned with Caspa, for example, our potential listings on these bigger exchanges, like if they happen right at those right times, like if we get that Binance listing freaking in the middle of November, chances are that's going to be the peak. It's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news thing. That can be it. Again, a lot of things can happen, but we want to look at the data. We want to look at what's going on and have price points ready, target points, execute. Again, take profits. But again, this is where it gets hard. Like we've mentioned before also, anything can happen, and this is where it gets hard and why it's important to kind of think about these things. Think about the bearish scenario, or maybe it doesn't do too well, like for example looking at Cadena and what happened, right? If you're a person who was holding back in July 2021, you bought some at 30 something cents, and here we go, Halloween, it's at $6, right? That's like a freaking 20x. you're going to take some profits. In some cases, some people sell all of it. Good money to have been made, right? Especially if you put in like 10K down at those prices. But then what happens if you would have waited a few more weeks and then it did a 3x from that point still? Okay, so this is why you want to kind of ladder out, look at different things, run different scenarios, right? Especially with these smaller cap coins, it's really hard to do price predictions because anything can happen. You can get some that'll be a dud, right? It's potential that Cadena could have just topped out at $2, and there's potential that it goes up to $20, right? It's really hard to say, and even in the middle of it, right? Like if I'm sitting there and this thing, the end of October hit $6, and I've been holding since it was like 20-something cents, I'm going to take some off the table, right? Am I going to take all of it? No, I'm going to look at the data. I'm going to continue to look at all the different data points we're looking at. Is the total market cap still going high? Is Bitcoin still running? Is these still running? Are there still narratives that can continue to push things? Because again, crypto is big on speculation, right? If we're kind of running out of things to speculate on, that's when the gas kind of starts running out. Okay, so like currently we mentioned, rate cuts in September, a lot of potential ETFs, which almost seems like it's guaranteed just because, again, especially with the SEC kind of clarifying securities and commodities, it seems extremely likely. And that's just going to be way more institutional interest in these alts, right? And then, of course, retail getting into those bigger alts because it's going to be the Solanas, the AVAXs, probably the SUIs, things like that get those ETFs. Okay, so again, it's estimated around September, October. Again, September rate cuts. There's potentially more regulation clarity, more laws being passed around that time also that are expected. Again, a lot of things in that time frame. Again, these are all things that are lining up. These are all things that are speculative that can cause things to go parabolic. Okay, let alone more reserve companies, more nation states adopting. A lot of things can happen, right? But we're looking at all those things. We're looking at the narratives. And for those individual coins, we're looking at their narratives, right? Again, I do believe that different sectors will probably pump at the same time. So don't be surprised to see AI coins pump at the same time, gaming coins pump at the same time, DePIN coins pump at the same time. And this is when you want to really look at and consider taking profits. Okay, so again, that'll be more of a whole nother video. But guys, at the end of the day, be freaking bullish. Right? This is the time. This is not the time to be bitching and moaning and crying about your coin not doing well and crying. This is the time to freaking double down, make moves, and take advantage of what's in front of you. Okay? Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree? Are you guys still fucking negative Nancy's? Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it's all bullshit? Let me know. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. Really do appreciate it. And I'm out.